seatbelt,
Right beside you.
because of the noise that they make. The animals with the really large horns are going to be the animals with the cattle.
Hello.
And don't worry, their horns are not quite as big and heavy as they might look to us at first glance, because they're not made out of the solid material. They're made out of a honeycomb-like structure inside. Although they do still weigh about 15 pounds each, which is still going to be a lot bigger than anything that I'd want to buy.
Wait a minute. And you'll get to see
There's also a really big tree that's been knocked down at the head, which is a great sign of elephant activity in the area for us.
Oh, wow.
We can usually tell when elephants are on the move through the reserve because they don't always have the same height advantage as the giraffes. They actually used to be about maybe 14 feet tall. But what they do have on their side instead is going to be their strength. And they are plenty strong enough to bulldoze the trees down if they need to instead. And it looks like the culprit has not gone too far ahead just yet either. Elephants like this one do need to rely on a lot of their resources when they eat, because they do need to eat around 300 to 500 pounds worth of food in a day and drink around 50 gallons worth of water, which does also kind of make sense because they are one of the largest land animals in the world, and a full-grown elephant can weigh as much as 13,000 pounds. Now, the other good news for us, I think, is that so far it looks like a lot of trees have been knocked down in this area recently. And so far we've only found one elephant, which would be a whole lot of work for it to have done on its own. But I'm hoping that just means that more members of the herd have already passed through this part of the reserve and maybe just moved a little farther up ahead. That's not too unusual either, though, to sometimes see one elephant kind of doing its own thing away from the main herd, though. The herds are matriarchal societies, so females and babies all stay in one family herd together. And then as the males start to get a little bit older, usually around the time they're 12 or 13, that's around the time they leave that family herd and go off either on their own, or they may sometimes find other males that they can form a small bachelor herd with instead. There are some tough marks and footprints in the clay pit here, usually another really great sign for us. It looks like we are fish up to the family herd over here on the left. Elephants like to be near clay pits like that one for a couple different reasons. The clay is going to be another really great source of vitamins and nutrients for them, so it's something else that they can eat if they needed to. But elephants also actually have really sensitive skin, even though it might look pretty tough to us. And as the bulldozers of the savannah, they can't always rely on the shade from the trees to help them protect that skin from the sun. What they can do instead, though, that is really smart, is throw things like dirt, dust, mud, or even the clay on themselves if they needed to. And when they're doing that, they're just using those things as an actual form of sunblock to help better protect that skin from sunburn. Now, with the elephants being here on the reserve, we get a lot of opportunities not just to protect them, but to also study them and learn more about them. And one of the really interesting things that our researchers have learned is that even though they are one of the largest land animals in the world, elephants are also still kind of afraid of the sound of bees. We were able to use that information, though, to help farmers who were having trouble with elephant herds destroying their crops. And we helped those farmers build beehive fences, giving them a safe way to help protect those crops from the elephants, and also giving them an additional source of income, because eventually they were able to harvest and sell the honey from inside. So in the end, it worked out to be a really great win-win for everyone. Coming around this watering hole here a bit more, we are also getting a great look at some greater flamingo. The greater flamingo are the largest species of flamingo, but also the lightest shade of pink out of any flamingo species as well, which is why they may not look quite as pink as what we usually imagine the flamingos do. When they first hatch, though, they don't hatch pink, they hatch gray with black legs. And we can usually identify younger members of a group that way because they won't start to get their pink coloring until they're closer to about a year old. When they do start to turn pink, it's also not something that happens entirely on its own either. The flamingo's pink coloring is actually going to come from all the beta carotene in the algae and the brine shrimp belly. This is also another pretty big mud pit that's over here in this clearing. Now, the scimitar horned oryx that we're seeing over here have that white and brown coloring, but I don't think they're the ones responsible for it, because their coloring is actually going to give them great camouflage when they're out in the desert. And not only is it great camouflage, but the white parts of their body will help them reflect the sunlight and keep them a little bit cooler while they're out there as well.